it's Trey.
Hey everybody, it's Paige. Now that you've had a chance to hear our new album, Sigma Oasis, we're going to take you track by track through each song.
And share some insights and commentary with you here on Phish Radio. We had such a good time making this record together. We made it in a very live setting up in the barn in November. The four of us all playing together. There was no click tracks or dividers or that kind of thing. We had the windows looking out at some light snow, and I just look at that session with such gratitude. So the first song, Sigma Oasis, the title track, Tom and I wrote that down in Atlantic City. We got a little rental place on the beach there for a couple days and wrote some songs together. And this was one of these great memories where Tom had some lyrical ideas, and there's, I think, a few from our friend Scott who joins in with us, though he was not there. We have little books of lyrics that we use. And then I had some lyrics and some musical ideas, and we kind of stand there and start, working through this, and something sort of magical emerges. That seemed to be what happened with this one. I think I was singing the take off your mask part, the fear is an illusion. And I didn't foresee that that would have the meaning that it has today, I think, with the masks and all that. Phish songs, for me, there's certain ones that kind of ride this razor's edge between literal and poetic or something like that. That it's like I know exactly what I mean when I'm singing it, but I have a feeling it means something different to someone else. That's always the high watermark that we are shooting for when Tom and I write together, especially.
To my ear, it really feels like us playing. It feels like us going up and sitting down and playing a bunch of songs. It doesn't sound terribly overworked or overthought, and there's a very relaxed feel to this song, and I think that goes through the whole record. Just four guys playing some music together. I hope you enjoy this one. I had a great time working on it, and I think it came out really well. Sigma Oasis.
Hey, we're back, everybody. So this next song is called Leaves. Tom and I wrote that at the Jersey Shore. That was a couple years ago. I think actually at the same songwriting session where we wrote Everything's Right. So that was kind of a fun couple of days. I love some of the lines in this song. We built a kingdom out of lies, and then we blindly fanned the fire. We warmed our hands with glowing coals, and now they rain down from the skies. That line really hits me, just kind of in regards to we're, reaping what we sow a little bit in this era. And I think it feels very relevant when we sing that. This is one of my favorite songs on the album. I like writing those kind of three-part harmonies a lot, and when we learned it with the band, it was kind of cool that Phish took one of the harmonies, and me, Paige, and Phish, I think that's like a sound that we don't use very often, and I think Phish's singing is really incredible. Paige's too, but I really was extra impressed with Phish, his vocal on this.
Just a really nice vocal arrangement. I love the way that our vocals go back and forth. Fishman's vocal comes in the third harmony, and it's so strong. Some of his best singing I think he does with the band.
I love the piano playing. Oh. And the string chart is by my friend Don Hart, who I've worked with for so long. What a beautiful string chart for this. I hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed playing it. So Leaves and Everything's Right were written in the same 3-day songwriting trip that Tom and I took to the Jersey Shore. As we've talked about many times, this is something we've been doing since we were kids. It really kind of makes me a little misty thinking about it. We were pretty awkward teenagers, and we would, go to a party and we would lock ourselves in the back room. We had a group of other friends who would do this with us too. But Tom and I really launched off into our own direction pretty quickly, where, we would lock ourselves in the back room, or we would go over to Tom's bedroom at his house or mine, shut the door, lock the world away, and just write like crazy. And people ask me, how are these songs written? And I always find myself saying, together. They're written together. So Everything's Right was a great example of that. So we wrote a bunch of songs at this little place where we had locked ourselves in the Jersey Shore. Off season, there wasn't a lot of people around, so it's cool. And I remember we wrote Leaves, and then right before we left, this has happened so many times, we were standing in the kitchen, and we got sort of a groove going, and I remember we were playing on the pots and pans and banging on the kitchen cupboards and stuff, getting that groove. And then I remember kind of saying to Tom, how do you really feel, He started throwing out a couple lines, and I started throwing out a couple lines, and I think I kind of threw in the chorus, this world, this crazy world I know. And then we had this song, So, it's a very visceral experience when we write songs, not unlike a good jam or something like that. So Mercury is a myth, a god, an element, and a planet. It's pretty cool. And Tom gets really into this stuff and kind of started this train rolling. We were looking it up online. There's a myth, something about Mercury was in love. Maybe it was with Larunda or something, but it was an untouchable, beautiful goddess. And so he laid out this trail of lilies and violets and then trapped her in a net of steel, an unbreakable net. That's where that whole, the trail of lilies and violets ends, trapped in steel, the unbreakable net, right? Everything in that song is factual. The Tomb of the Red Queen, it's all Mercury stuff. I won't get into it, but you could dig into the internet and find all this. But we had so much fun for like a month going back and forth and uncovering these cool things. I think he's like the patron of travelers or something. And very cool guy, wings on his feet. With wings on your feet, your day is longer than your year. To me, that was supposed to contrast with the that was my stop, but the subway kept going. I'm like in a tunnel underground in the city. I'm so caught up in my problems that I just go right by my subway stop. And you contrast it with this vast imagery from mythology and going across eons of time and into outer space. For me, that is perspective. And when I have perspective, life is a gift. Shade has a line in it that I find to be particularly poignant right now in hearing it, and that's South of the Border and Over the Moon, because it was like we were just in Mexico and nobody could have even, well, maybe someone could have, but I couldn't have anticipated that we would be where we are today, which can be a very hopeful thought too, because we can't anticipate where we'll be tomorrow. And I always like to have hope and believe that it will be some good will come out of these changes. I mean, I have to believe that. And that's just like the way I like to think. The pendulum swinging back and forth and hopefully settling in the middle somewhere. It's swung. But anyway, I figured out what you whispered that night. Somewhere the clouds touch the mountains just right. Somewhere we're dancing and you're singing the tune. South of the border and over the moon. And then I just, in my mind's eye, see that moon over the ocean. And anyway, I love this song. I particularly on this album love Page's playing. I just think it's so nice. I love his piano. I love his playing on the whole album. I love ballady songs that have hopefully somewhat compelling chord progressions. And when those chord progressions are played by Page on the grand piano, it's some of my favorite stuff that Phish does. I've gotten to the point now where when we start like the horse section of Silent in the Morning, I just stop playing. It's better when I don't. And that's how I feel about this one. I used to play along with him. I like it so much better with just the piano and the voice.
Hey everybody, it's Paige here to introduce the next track, which is Evening Song. This is a song we've been playing for just a few months now. I think the first time we ever played it was a couple nights before New Year's, this last New Year's run at the Garden. I really like this song. It's a very pretty melody. Got to spend a little time and add some synthesizers, which I really like. Great groove, nice harmonies. I hope you enjoy it.
Somebody I was talking to who was a fan said, oh, you should close the show with that song because we're all going to go walking out into the parking lot, approach the night with caution. And I actually thought it'd be more fun to open with it because you're walking into a whole crazy night ahead. If you really wanted to bend the lyrics and you think about being at a Phish concert as like being home, which I kind of think sometimes. I like to be home too in my home, but I also like to be playing at a Phish concert. You could say, approach the night with caution. No longer shall you roam. When darkness stains the eastern sky, be sure that you are home. I mean, come into the concert. So that's another interpretation you could open the show.
One of my favorite songs to play live. Love playing organ on this one. On this particular version, I think that Mike and Phish just lay it down so solidly. Trey sings it great. I also really like some of the sonic treatments that Vance, our engineer, did. The way he dialed this one up has kind of a unique sound to it and a lot of energy.
Mike Gordon, groove, love. John Fishman, groove, yes. Come on, man. Kicking it, laying it down, making it happen. And I love the lyrics. Tom's lyrics on this are so Tom. I'm so glad we finally got to record this. So Life Beyond a Dream, in some ways it's really a love song. I wrote it during the Ghosts of the Forest thing, but I had kind of opened my lens to include memories of other people in my life, not just, Chris or whatever. This is, it kind of write about those really deep feelings of connecting with someone on a really deep level and then having to let go of that connection, which is probably the most universal human experience. You know, all of us can relate to that. So it's very simple in that way. It's about that. And then I can apply it when we're playing shows to that moment that we're all together. And, you know, we share these moments and they melt away to foggy memories of a distant day. And then, you know, don't give up hope, keep dreaming. And I think the song sounds more poignant to me even now because, you know, we were just all together on that fall tour. And then, you know, Mexico, we have this big summer tour planned. And now suddenly, unexpectedly, we've all been forced to separate, hopefully temporarily. But it makes me even cherish even more so the moments, the simple moments of being together.
Here to introduce the last song on the album. This is Thread, one which I am so thrilled made it onto the record. Worked really hard on this to put as many keyboards on it as I could possibly. Really had a fun time in my studio working on this after we'd done all the basic tracks. And I think Trey sings it great. I love all the different parts and all the different passages that this song goes through and winds through and ends up in kind of a dark jam that is one of my favorite jams we've got on record.
Love the jam at the end. I love the way this came out. I think it's cool. And I think that everybody played really well on it. I love the keyboards. Oh, man. Love the bass. Tom had written these lyrics for what do you call it when there's 3 parts to the song? Anyway, the part 1 is Steam. It all continues the same story. Part 2 is Thread. And part 3 is Epitaph. And I did write the music to Epitaph, but we tried it, and it's not there yet, so we'll have to wait till the next album for that one. It's pretty cool, actually. The characters from Shade continue their journey in Thread.